Welcome to The Human Soul, where we are here to look at why we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We all have these times in our lives where things happen to us that we can't explain, but they are tipping us off to what our life and what we're here to do is. And I want to dig deep into what that human experience is all about. And I can't think of a better person to do that with than a man who has captured so many human experiences in his life, Elliot Mintz. It is just such an honor and pleasure to be here with you tonight, Elliot.
The honor is mine. The honor is mine. I've been a fan of yours from afar for a long time. And welcome to my home and to my heart.
Oh, thank you so much. All these things that you've been through your whole life, which I've been observing you for so many years, and really you've been such a role model for me in so many ways, especially your command of the English language has always inspired me so much. The human experience, you've been there being the consummate observer, capturing these incredible stories from some of the most outstanding people, whether they're musicians or actors or people on the spiritual path. Has this had any sort of profound effect on you?
Oh, I became the cosmic messenger from the sky, you know. The effect it had was that I recognized that my role was to deliver that wisdom to a larger audience. I was a conduit, but I wasn't the source of the information. I wasn't I was temporarily the recipient to disseminate it. I remember a January, I think 1976, in New York City, where I went to visit Baba Ram Dass at his apartment. I had taped an interview with him the night before. And John and Yoko wanted to come along to watch me do the radio interview. And they did. And for an hour and a half, I was asking Ram Dass questions in his apartment in the living room. He had some friends over. John and Yoko observed, and after the interview, the two of them made some comments to him. And the next day he called me and he said, you know, I felt okay about the interview. But I think we can do more. I think there is more to share. And I said, okay, when would you like to share it? He said, come back to the apartment. And I went back that afternoon. I went to Ram Dass's apartment and I asked him one question. I said, Baba Ram Dass, for those who do not know who you are, and why so many people are paying attention to your words of wisdom, could you just share a little bit of your life's experience with us? He spoke for an hour and 10 minutes. When he was finished, he smiled. I said, thank you very much, and turned the tape recorder off. It may have been one of the best interviews I ever did. It only required giving the person the space to express their story. We all have one.
What really intrigues me, Elliot, is how you always seem to be at the right place at the right time. And I think there's something going on more than the apparent. I mean, like when you just decided on a whim to call up Iran to talk with a terrorist, that made world news. And it was just something that happened because of a caller. Do you feel like you're being directed sometimes by something?
You bring up that particular interview and that particular call, and I'm really bad with numbers and math, but I think we're coming up to the 40th anniversary of the capture of American hostages in Tehran, Iran, at the end of November. I vaguely recall. It was simple. You know, I was doing an interview on a radio station, And the interviewer was asking questions about Elliot Mintz and radio shows I used to do. And then we went to open phones. And a caller called and said, with all due respect, I'm listening to this show. I don't know who this guy Elliot Mintz is. All these people who are calling up and having wonderful memories, I'm sure he's a nice guy. But don't you think you could make better use of the airtime, the two of you, if you did something important? And I asked him innocently, I think it's an intriguing observation, what would you suggest? He said, well, 30 or 40 of our American citizens have just been captured. They're being held hostage in the embassy in Iran. The terrorists have threatened to murder them. Why don't you do something about that? Why don't you try and change that? Well, thought about it for a second, and I said to Roy Tuckman, who hosted the show, I said, I think he brings up a very good point. I think that this is more important than the night that I smoked banana peels after interviewing Donovan after Mellow Yellow to see if dried banana peels wrapped in zigzags can get you a little buzzed. I think that this is more important. So I dialed 411 and asked for the international operator. I got her. I said, I want to place a call to Tehran, Iran. May I have the phone number of the American embassy? He said, one moment. I was transferred to Iran. I said, hi, what's the number of the embassy? And the person said, it's ... And on the air, I dialed it. Somebody picked up the telephone. I said, hi, is this the American embassy in Tehran, Iran? And the fellow on the other end of the line said, yeah. And I said, my name is Elliot Mintz. I'm doing a radio show in a place called California. I'm not involved with the government. This isn't an official call or anything. I'm a concerned person. Want to know how the people are doing. Do you know anything about them? And I think his first response was, yeah, we got them. They're right here. They're here. They're fine. They're good. And I asked if I could speak to one of them. And he said, no, that's not permitted. It's not allowed yet. And we began a conversation. And yes, he engaged in the usual kind of political polemics that somehow, in his mind, justifies kidnap and murder and the consciousness of menace. And I listened to the tone of his voice. And I tried to place myself in his position and in the position of those people that had been taken hostage who did not know if they would see the light of day again. And I asked the person I was speaking to how old he was. And I think he told me he was 21.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him if he was scared. And we had a conversation. And we talked for 15 minutes or so. Very civilly, not about politics. Heart to heart. Being to being. In this chess game of which so much was riding. Was I in the right place at the right time, which was your question?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone at CBS, NBC, or ABC could have dialed 411. Anyone could have placed themselves in that situation. I was there. I was talking to the so-called terrorist. I've since wondered whatever happened to him. As a result of somebody who was driving along the Pomona Freeway, playing with the FM radio, discovering a program, hearing me, finding me uninteresting, and making a suggestion. He was at the right place, consciously, at the right time, and educated me. I listened to the message. I got it. Implementation of almost anything, I feel, is feasible if you're motivated.
I had an experience with Les Paul.
Tell me about it.
I was on the radio with Les Paul, and he told me his story about how he discovered tape machines. The Germans were getting the propaganda out quicker than we were because they weren't doing it to acetate, they were doing it to tape.
Right.
On a stormy night, they flew him from New York, where he was working with Judy Garland, to Chicago. They said, figure this out for us. They started making tape recorders. And he's telling me this, and I'm talking to him on the radio, right? And it dawned on me that millions of people were hearing this conversation.
Yes.
That was a huge responsibility.
They were touched by the words. They weren't distracted by the imagery.
But I mean, you experience this all the time. You were there during that time where you were in touch with the collective consciousness, where the song of the week was on everybody's lips, not only in this country, but in every country on the planet. That's a huge responsibility. How did you deal with that?
It was given to me to do. My role was to take what I was given, to share it with those who were listening. And just the highway. I didn't view it as something really special. I mean, I felt honored. I felt gifted, certainly. I interviewed more than 2,000 people in my media career. And to be in the same room with some of those folks, I was not indifferent to it. But at the same time, part of what made all that work was that I never treated them as being any different than us. My belief is that the listener is as important as the speaker. I used to go to listen to J. Krishnamurti when he would do his lectures up in Ojai. Went there a few times with Harry Dean Stanton. And J. Krishnamurti would walk out on the stage. There'd be a chair, and he would say, "The speaker wishes to address this issue." And he would start talking. He wouldn't say, "Hi, I'm J. Krishnamurti." There wouldn't be an introduction. "Ladies and gentlemen, the philosopher, the genius, the author." He found himself in the role of being the speaker. And we were the ears. When I was on the radio, I was the mouth. The audience was the ears. The first one now will later be last. There'll come a time, there has been a time, there is a time, where I'm the listener, I'm not the speaker. I think it's important to be cautious as to who you're listening to, not just in media, but in your own life, in your own relationships, in your dealings with the people at the supermarket, or whatever you're doing, to pay attention to their essence. I find most people to be infinitely more intriguing than me. I'm the world's foremost expert in Elliot Mintz. Nobody knows more about that character than me. Frankly, that subject is of little interest to me anymore. Mm-hmm. I've read my own bio and repeated it enough times to make others snore. But every time I encounter somebody new, there is a world of knowledge, experience, illumination that captivates me, that excites me. That's the union of the souls. That is that's the ultimate dance. And usually, those transactions are done in silence.
Buddhism, they have a thing called the Genko. We know about the yin and yang, but it's the three energies working together, the positive, negative, and neutral, or the observer and the male-female principle. So when all those things come together, that's when you have that aha,
Yes.
experience. Now you've been putting dots together a long time.
Yes. Yeah, I've been working on that one.
Yeah.
That goes to the heart of, to borrow a phrase from Don Henley, that goes to the heart of the matter. Third patriarch of Chinese Zen. To get beyond the illusion of duality, you have to avoid words like good, bad, right, wrong, this way or that way. You have to be in the moment that you're in beyond judgment. It is. Now, once you're there, I'm not, but Zen masters are. Mm-hmm. Once they are in that perfect moment where they're truly merging with all of it, well, in my life experiences, that's where I've made the connection. I've never fallen in love through words. A caress is always going to be superior to an expression verbally through a gift, a card, or a Jamaican cruise. So meditation, silence, for me, is the way that I use to make the kind of contact that I frequently think you allude to in your work, in your writing. In other words, when I listen to you, read you, especially watch you do these YouTube videos where you're walking around near the beach where you live and discussing various astrological conjunctions of that particular time, I'm certainly paying attention to the information because the information is very important. And the aspects that are being delineated, I have to consider in relationship to how I'm going to live my life that day, that week. Sometimes you do these collective releases, these sighs. We're just coming, I'm doing a lousy imitation of David Hauser. We just got out of Mercury in retrograde, and that was one that really took everything out of us. What you were doing, of course, is you're not giving an opinion. You were speaking for all of us who were giving the collective sigh and saying, yeah, we all got out of Mercury in retrograde together. Mm-hmm. That's the lead. Now, the next step is of particular importance. Now what? So what is to follow? So what does the zodiac suggest will present itself? And that's when you allude to destiny. But when you allude to destiny, you do not do it in the traditional or the conventional pop astrological prediction manner. What you do is you say that now is the opportune moment for, let's say, a man and a woman together who have had difficulties in communication during retrograde, to now take this time that's available to put those words and sentiments aside and to merge. That's what you do. So you are affirming what we are feeling. You are giving the directions of the cosmos a voice. Whatever it is that people ascribe to me on radio and television, well, you do that with the planets, right? Mm-hmm. You do that with the universe. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal.
Well, this is what you do too. I mean, the interesting thing is what you just said. This Libra season is like no other Libra season because it's exactly what you said. We are starting to arrive at the place where we're not looking at duality. I mean, the patriarchs wanted us to be always weighing at duality. Now the scales of Libra are weighing out different things. They're weighing out compassion and love.
Yes.
And where the weight of that is. And, all these interviews and stuff. And as you as a persona and what you do for the talent that you represent, you bring love and compassion in everything that you do. And this is what's going to change the world. It's not going to be, political rhetoric or some sort of trumped up idea about economics.
No, it's not that. It's not that. Look, for our friends, for people who are watching who are, deeply committed to political ideology and, all the things in the world that need improvement and need people's personal participation. And that's talking to all of us. We do what we can do. It's not for us to rise above it and be indifferent to human suffering and to just say that the earth will work things out the way the earth has always worked things out, and to rely upon a higher power to resolve issues like global warming. Consciousness includes a responsibility to take action. And even if it doesn't appear that we can change anything but ourselves, that's enough. That's enough. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. So if enough people dream, imagine, utilize their consciousness to alter planet Earth, for me, that's as important as voting. So vote for whoever it is that you think will make the world a better place. I'm not dissuading you from that. But for those of you who choose not to participate in that arena, do something personally.
Well, you have been doing a lot of things personally to make effective change in our world. And, first off, I say the universe doesn't speak English, it speaks emotions.
I like that.
And second off, it's our collective consciousness. It's when we all have this collective experience that we can direct consciousness towards what we need it to do. You've seen it at work. You've seen it happen where people have got together and said, "Hey, we've had enough of this," and we're going to make a change. Whether it's what George Harrison did in Bangladesh or Willie Nelson with Farm Aid. You've seen how people, the power of talent, the power of creativity, the power of collective consciousness at work, and you've been played an active role in that. I know you don't toot your horn, but there is a force that comes through you that has a lot to do with sending that ripple out into the universe.
As we enter this Libra period that you alluded to, I'm thinking about the relationship between this particular period of time and the divine feminine, and the liberation factor that that's going to have for all of us.
All my work is directed at empowering women. Both you and I know from our spiritual arcs that it's women that are going to make the effective change that we need to see, that restores love and compassion from hate and fear.
That is my take on it as well. And all of my best friends are women. The people I listen to the most are women. People frequently reference my relationship with John and Yoko and start to ask me John Lennon questions. I tell them that I met Yoko 4 months before I met John, and I've known her now for more than 50 years and have learned as much from her as from any other, If men would spend more time just listening to the voice of the divine feminine that comes through the one that you're with, without judgment or pretense, selfishness, or attempted alteration. I'm not saying we wouldn't be where we are because we're supposed to be. You know, there's a reason why we find ourselves at this particular place in time in the universe. But if you're looking for a way out of the anguish, yeah, look to the women.
First off, John didn't get with her for no reason, so there was a powerful woman there that he
Yes.
recognized. And second off, I think, we were attempting to redefine male in the 60s and the 70s, but, like I said, we had a huge distraction. We got off track. I think we're at the place right now where we're looking at redefining male and female. Powerful woman used to mean wearing trousers and trying to break the glass ceiling.
Yeah.
I think that's changed a lot. I mean, you talk with some of the most amazing women. I mean, I see you on your Facebook channel, and I see all the beautiful women that who are who were behind great men or just were leaders in themselves, and they're not looking like guys. They're looking like empowered women that are here to have a voice. Where are we at on that? Are they going to be speaking up anytime soon?
That one's complex, and I'm always reminded of a Saturday Night Live skit where there were 6 men discussing women, and the irony in that. Then you turn on CNN and you see male congressmen and senators telling women how to behave and what to do. So I certainly can't speak for the women, but I can tell you that I've spoken to some really, really brilliant women, and now we're witnessing the first generation who grew up in the shadow of all of this, who are 60, who got all the goodies and the titles, and are sitting at the board tables of corporations and feel something's missing.
Alone and miserable.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk to women of power, after you get through the first wave of how good it feels to have done what they've accomplished, I lean in and say, I got all that, and congratulations. Yeah, it's a beautiful new beach house that you got here in Malibu. Congratulations on all of it, and the awards. So how you feeling? How you doing?
Yeah.
When was the last time you were with somebody who touched your heart?
I've come across that, in my work.
Yeah, you consult with women.
Yeah,
women come to you who talk to you about.
I do. I'm a love guide. That's how yeah. David Hauser love guide. This little statue, that's what we're missing. This unity, this divine male-female unity, the Mahamudra, if you will.
Mahamudra.
I think we're at the point where men have already played the video game of porn so many times. They're like, what?
Yeah.
Men have never been told that they're divine creatures.
Yes.
Women have always been plugged into that. So I think that in order to get back to that, and we had some great role models from the 40s and some great films where men were really men, where men were gentlemen and understood what that meant.
Yes.
I consider you that, and you're a great role model for me for that.
I try and be a gentleman.
You are such a gentleman.
I do try.
But this is what's missing. I think this is the missing ingredient. I think when women start to see that they are the ones who got to lead, and I've gotten some hit from women by telling them that you got to lead, because they're looking for the guys to come up and check off their bucket list, but it's just not happening because they don't know. I think it's going to take people like yourself, to sort of come out there again. I know you're not thinking about that, but I think that your voice is actually a needed voice in this new paradigm.
When you ask the women who you consult with, mm-hmm. and by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you consult with these women, do you do it under the umbrella of astrological symbology, or do you do it closer to what I would call a more soulful quasi-psychological perspective? Does it come from the magic or does it come from academia?
I'm an intuitive.
Got it.
I've used that tarot and astrology to be a shield for my intuition my whole life.
So you rely upon the magic when you speak to a woman who is reflecting an absence, let's say, of love.
Mm-hmm.
Where do most women in their 40s and 50s make their greatest mistakes in misreading a relationship that they believed would fulfill them in a loving manner?
What's happening is that they're misreading this imprint that they have and end up with a reasonable facsimile. And the reason for that is I think that the wolves, or the narcissists, if you will, they know how to get in. They know what they want to hear. And the real guys, the real soulful, plugged in, heartful guys, they just don't know the language, the emotional language of how to communicate, to even knock on a door and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, I have this feeling I have for you. Can we talk?
So, eloquently put, you consult with the women, not with the guys. And the women bring this to your door, and you're correct. What do you advise the women to do to awaken the male spirit beyond look for a different man?
I tell them, well, first off, I talk about narcissism. I'm gearing up actually to do a documentary series on narcissism because I feel it's just like sexual predators. We need to be able to identify them in our culture and weed them out.
Yes.
But after that, basically I'm telling women is to be the leaders, to teach men. My work, all my books are designed to teach men and to be a source of affirmation for women. And we need that in our culture. We need women to understand that their superpower, intuition, is for real. I mean, how many guys try to tell women, and you probably see this in a lot of people you're around, the guys are saying, oh, honey, that isn't right. Oh, yeah. And they're dead right. They're always dead right.
Yes.
While there was really no big hit film, there's really no big thing on TV, there's really no big song, there's really no big thing. I think something is about to emerge. And I've talked with so many people, and it's like we're all sensing that something magnificent is about to happen. Do you have that feeling?
Yes. I think it begins with this echo from the sky that resonates everywhere, where women no longer ask permission. They don't have to convince us or demand anything from us. They just do it. And for the men who are smart enough to catch the caboose on this railroad train, the locomotive is going to take us home. Too many books have been written. Too many speeches. Too many lectures. Too many conversations. I tell my friends who are women who say that they sometimes feel stuck with the men that they're with, the relationships that they're in. I'll tell you one. I never tell jokes, ever. I'm a bad joke teller. I don't have the timing and the sensibility of it. I don't go to see comedians because I don't like foul language. I don't use it in my own vocabulary. And there are only 3 jokes I ever heard in my life that I repeat because I don't take them as jokes. I take them as Zen object lessons that were disguised as a joke. Do you know that most jokes originate in prison?
I did not know
That's
that.
how jokes come to the forefront. I mean, people like Bob Hope had joke writers, etc. But most things that make you laugh came from the sound of the prisoner wail, looking for any relief from the sadness of incarceration. Years and years and years ago, there was an old Jewish comedian named Henny Youngman. Did you ever hear that name?
Yeah, I know Henny Youngman.
And Henny Youngman, for those of you who might be watching this, he probably has stuff on YouTube. He used to play a place called the Catskill Mountains in upstate New York, where people would go for weekends. They like little social clubs, and they had tennis or whatever they did. And Youngman would come out. He had a little violin, and he would tell a joke, play the violin for a second, and he was known as somebody who could tell 7 jokes every minute. He was nonstop joke master. And my father loved him. Whenever Henny Youngman was on radio where there were recordings, my dad loved him. And my dad met my mother at the Catskills. So one night when I was, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, we were all watching the Ed Sullivan Show on Sunday. And Ed Sullivan had Henny Youngman on. And I'm watching with my parents and my sister. This was years before Elvis. And this guy comes out, and he tells the following joke, which I'm going to tell you now. And this is the part that will wind up on YouTube forever and haunt me, but it's done with the best of intentions. So a man goes to the doctor, and he says, "Doctor, it hurts when I do this." And the doctor says, "Don't do that." That's the joke. My father laughed. Man goes to the doctor and says, doctor, it hurts when I do this." And the advice that came back from the doctor is, "Don't do that." I didn't laugh because I didn't get it, and I didn't really understand it, and it went by with too many other jokes. But I carried it with me for the rest of my life. And when I'm doing anything that doesn't feel right within, when I'm with anyone who does not bring me to that place in my heart where I am most in touch with not only me, but my ability to be in touch with her, I don't want to do that. And a lot of people can say, well, Elliot, you might have the option of it. Well, don't talk to me about options. We all have more options than we care to reveal or acknowledge. What terrifies us most is that we don't exercise these options. We don't assert ourselves. The women have yet to speak in the universal, international, cosmic language of change. And it'll go beyond being CEO, it'll go beyond being the President of the United States of America. Bless them. If that's what you want to do, become the President of the United States of America. But that's the paradigm. That's the shift. That's what I see on the horizon. I ask you, from an astrological perspective, what signs, what time, what period will we be most ready to receive that message? How far is that away according to the heavens?
It's a lot closer than we think, and it's going to have to do when Jupiter passes Saturn, and that's only a few years away. You're going to start seeing big things happen towards the end of this year that are just going to be like, what?
The end of
this year. In November and December, there's just going to be a lot of synchronicities happening in our lives. We've had a hell of a time of big lessons in our life. I mean, like crazy. And this year is all about coming into our authenticity. And for a lot of people, it's been very painful.
Yes.
Because you've had to, with Pluto and Saturn being down at the south node, it's just like a vortex of karma. It's just been open, and it's not just karma in your last life; it's karma in all your lives. So we're purging, we're renewing, we're starting to have a different view that is not negative, that is not positive, that is just, oh my God, all these things had to happen for us to be here now. Like Baba Ramda said, be here now.
Yes.
As Jupiter passes Saturn, that's when Jupiter is going to start telling the story. It won't be Saturn anymore with this materialism and structure and stuff like it's been for so long.
As Jupiter passes Saturn, will all people of all signs be equally as affected, or should we look for a particular signs?
Depending on what your thing is, like the Aries is I am, the Leos are I will, and on down the line, everybody has their own moniker of their tribe, so to speak. So yeah, those will be, but I'm sort of into galactic astrology.
Yes.
Because we're all on this planet flying through the universe at 70,000 miles an hour to who knows where.
Yes.
So we will all be going through a lot of the same experiences, only just with our different flavors on it. But yeah, it's going to start then. And the further Jupiter starts to move away from Saturn, then you're going to see all these innovations. You're going to see things coming from entrepreneurs out of nowhere that they've been working on for years and years. Here it is, and this is going to start to take away from the old paradigm that you and I know so well of Monsanto, Johnson & Johnson, all these people who've been capitalizing on us for so long because we vote with our dollar.
A woman watching your broadcast right now, who's a Sagittarius, I just picked that out. Her ears are up. And she said, well, David just said something is going to occur after the first week of January. But David also said that his particular practice is intergalactic astrology, as opposed to sidereal or more classical forms of astrological interpretation. Would you say to the Sagittarius woman the same thing that you would be saying to the Libra woman?
I always say to the Sagittarius woman, listen, your belief structure is going to be challenged. And you have to open up to the idea that all these things that you've been holding on to, all these attachments about beliefs, you're going to have to let go of. The Libra women, I would have to say, the things that you used to think balanced you aren't going to balance you anymore. You're going to have a new look, a new view. And that's really what Jupiter is about, is our view of things. There's no belief system in Buddhism like in Christianity, but I asked a great Rinpoche about what is it that Buddhists believe in, sort of kind of like you would say to somebody. And he goes, well, Buddhists believe that humans have the capacity to love each other and the faith that they will. And that's the kind of belief that sits really good with me. And I am a Sagittarius. I'm a double Sagittarius with an Aries moon.
What will happen with you 3 months from this taping? What is the most significant change that we're going to witness with David? If we meet here in my living room 3 months from today, how will you be different?
Chiron is now in Aries, okay? Yeah. And that was a big thing for all of us. It's a restructured identity. Those childhood wounds that I think we all sort of had that moment where all this angst and hurt and pain and stuff just disappeared. So I think that we're starting to get used to this kind of sweet because we've been so used to bitter, that David Hauser in 3 months from now will be letting go of that bitter that rests underneath my heart, the child sitting in my heart in the dark going, I'm scared. You know,
Shedding off one more layer of skin.
the whole fear factor, I think, is leaving us all. You're headed for some huge changes in your chart. You must be feeling that big time right now.
What do you see for me?
I see, well, like I talked about at the beginning of the program, I don't think your job is over by any means. I think you're just getting started. Crazy
I
as
wanted
that
to take a
sounds.
rest and go horseback
Ain't
riding.
gonna happen. I think that something very profound is gonna happen to you in the next few months that has to do with you doing what you do. And with Pluto moving forward, right there where your Jupiter is at the IC, that, you know, I really think that you have a lot more to do with people here, with your observational skills and your ability to help people have a deeper look.
What about my health?
Well, that I'd have to actually look at your chart, but as intuitively,
Yes.
I would have to say that, you know, for you, you've been going through a lot of little deaths and rebirths.
Little deaths.
Yeah, and rebirths. And I think that your health is going to be a part of that rebirth. So I think that the universe wants you around. The universe has been driving your life, your entire life. You've done astounding things as if by accident. You didn't even think that you were doing something astounding, but you did. You sent a ripple across this world that is timeless.
One more question about the destiny factor.
Sure.
I want to put this on my YouTube channel.
Please do.
I want to put all of this on my YouTube channel. I asked you about my health 6 months from now. You said to me, well, I have to check your chart, which is the absolute correct answer. You would, of course. You would check my chart and you would give me an answer. My question that viewers who are on the cusp of belief, who intuitively feel that the things of which you speak resonate in their heart and soul, as well as the skeptics who view our belief systems as being something less than rational, to be polite to our detractors. Implicit in your answer is the suggestion that those decisions have already been made. That if I'm going to have a heart attack, that's already been placed in the book that we're about to seal, the fear of the Judaic belief, Yom Kippur, where the book is complete. It removes this business about free will and says that you really have little control over this because the final edit is in. My direct question to you is, do you believe that your future, mine, the people watching, regardless of what they do, their fate has already been determined by some other authority?
Okay, my belief about this is that existence is one long day. Everything, all existence, the universe, everything is built on nothing and something at the same time. And is the something that it's built on is the love and compassion that we all express. Every creature, big or small, it's got that component to it. It's just a beautiful song. I mean, Baba Ramdas is the only dance there is. If you have been to those places in consciousness, The Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, consciousness is consciousness. If you really go to these high places, if you really have had these experiences, and we're here for the experience, you have to know that we're just doing this dance that we've all always done and we will continue to do until we remember. It's all about remembering. This is a journey into remembering. When we remember, when we get it, then this whole good or bad duality, all these principles and ideas that we have, these stories that we make about other people, disappear. They don't mean anything. The only thing that means something is how beautiful that flower is. How beautiful the sky is. Look, oh my God, we're here on this planet. And at that point, our story is about making this place the gem that it is.
Will you wear a seatbelt tonight when you drive home?
Of course I will, because I've trained myself to do that. But who knows that, in Vedic astrology, everything has a reason. Everything is a part of the deal. Putting on that seatbelt is something that the universe has always wanted me to do.
Did it? Hasn't it just been in the past 20 or 30 years since Ralph Nader was born that the universe has decided by law?
Dependent origination. It took him. It took you to bring me here tonight. It took me watching you on UHF on my little black and white TV while I was doing my homework to bring me here to you. It's dependent origination. All these things are dependent on everything, the glasses, the house, all these things that are in your beautiful home. It took millennia since the beginning of time for all this stuff to happen. And it is way beyond our comprehension. But here we are. We are walking through this existence. Remembering is the biggest thing. And I think when we do finally arrive, and in my third book, I talk about what remembering is all about. And when we do remember, we will remember what a privilege it is to be a spiritual being having a human experience.
That resonates. Say just a few more words about remembering. It's not a word that people use with great frequency. Tell me, I know you wrote a book about it, but
we have everything inside of us. We, with Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young, right? We are stardust. And it's true. We have everything inside of us. Another thing that happened to me in my childhood, I'll share with you, is that I used to go to this place where there's zillions of books. I didn't know it was called the Akashic. We all have the entire volume of the universe written inside every one of us. The tetrahedron, the tree of life,
yes.
It is etched in every particle that is holding this universe up. When we can remember those things, when we can remember the joy, love, and compassion that whatever existence has put together, then we can stop all this silly nonsense. Then women can actually express themselves. Men can realize that they don't have to be all these ideas about what masculinity is. They can just come from their heart. That's what I try to do every day, and I think that's what you do too, Elliot.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Tell me if you feel like saying something more.
If all you viewers out there who are watching this can just do what Elliot said, just be silent for a moment and listen. When you're silent for that split moment and all the chatter of your mind is not going this and that, and oh my God, where you have to go here, you have to do that, who did you call? If you can just be really silent for a moment and listen to the voice of the universe, of consciousness, then the mirror of your awareness is being polished. And when it's polished good enough, consciousness can see itself. And when consciousness can see itself, it knows that it is love. Thanks so much for being with us here tonight, Elliot. It's been a sincere privilege and honor for me to sit with you. You're such a dear soul to me, and I see you.
I know you do. I see you.
Thank you all so much for watching tonight. We are going to continue into discovering the human soul and understanding what it means to be a spiritual being having a human experience. Good night, everybody, and God bless.